Whew. How's it going, you guys? Just getting a little settled here. Starting off in the control room, ready to rock and roll. If you guys have any questions, make sure to join my free academy. I put the link at the top over here. I'll pin the post. That, actually, it's already pinned. That is where I'm going to be answering those questions. So I'm going through right now my free online academy, answering any wrestling questions you might have, coaching questions, etc. Okay. First question we got. All right. Scrambles. Are there any tips on getting better at scrambling? So if any of you guys need help with scrambling, pay attention. About to drop some knowledge on you guys. For scrambling, very, very important to put technique behind it. A lot of times people will think of scrambling as random, just kind of moving around, flipping through technique. But scrambling has technique behind it, and there's specific positions you guys need to get good at, and I'll list them real quick. You need to know how to deal with sitting the corner on your opponent. You need to know how to deal with funk rolls or leg passes and far toe scrambles. You need to know how to deal with low single defense. So there's other ones too, but the general idea is there's actual techniques behind scrambling. So whatever type of scramble you guys like to do, learn it, and actually, just like you learn a single and finishing and sweeping on your feet, learn that scrambling position. So that's the first thing. There's technique behind scrambling. I've made videos on scrambling, plenty of videos. You guys dive into the topics you guys like. Second thing, I do recommend being offensive in your scrambling. A lot of times, say for example, I shoot a single on you and come out the back door. The person that's out the back door, a lot of times will try to hold on. They'll just hold around the stomach and they'll just try and hold there as long as possible, and they'll slowly get taken down. When you're in those types of position, you have to be offensively looking to scramble. Don't look to stalemate the position. If you're looking to stalemate the position and just hold on, you will slowly get scored on. So those are my tips for scrambling. Again, if you just joined, I'm answering all the questions inside my free online academy. The link is pinned right at the top of the chat bar. So join my online academy. I'm going to be answering all the questions. I'm going on my phone right now and making sure we get all your questions answered. The first one was on scrambling. All right. Next up, Samarth is asking, how do you face the ups and downs in the sport of wrestling? Lately, I have been facing a few losses and unexpected injuries. I also feel like the coaches being disappointed at me. Okay. So just like anything in life, you're going to deal with the ups and downs. I don't know if any of you guys have dealt with injury before, but the best I can do is just share my experience. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I got injured a week before states and wasn't able to participate at the state championships. My junior year, I tore my meniscus and dislocated a rib. In college, I tore my other meniscus, got surgery on that. So I understand what it's like to get injured. Okay. And I don't know if any of you guys watching have dealt with injury, but here's the way I was able to continue to improve through injury and through setbacks. The first thing I would do is I'm looking to still train. So I'm not just going to fully stop everything and sit on the couch. If my meniscus was torn, like for me, my knee injury, I go and I'm going to do upper body lifting. I'm going to study technique. I'm going to do things, even cardio. You can do some fan bike stuff. You can do a lot of things so that when you come back and your knee is healed up, you guys are actually don't have to worry about your cardio because you've been doing cardio and you can get right back into the swing of things. If your arm is hurt, you're hitting legs, you're doing stance and motion. So I highly recommend, if you can, to continue training through injuries, but just avoid hurting them more. Does that make sense, you guys? So, and if you guys are just joining or you have questions, and you want them answered, I'm answering all of my questions inside my free online academy. The link is posted right at the top. You guys can click and join that. It's got over 50 free instructionals. It's a great tool to get better at wrestling. But I'm just going through and answering questions. So on to the next question. So once you join, you can post your questions. I'll answer. This is going on for an hour or two, you guys. You have plenty of time to get in and ask questions. Okay. How to deal with an opponent that doesn't want to engage? So Madison is asking, how do I wrestle somebody who keeps backing up? I don't know if you guys have ever experienced where you're wrestling somebody and you keep trying to close the gap on them and they keep running away and you can't set up any of your shots. You can't get to your best stuff. What I recommend you guys doing, first thing that I'm going to do is try to look for a stall call. So if I'm wrestling somebody and they're continuing to back up, they're continuing to run away, I'm going to back them up towards the out of bounds line, and then I'm going to shoot them out of bounds. I'm not going to allow them to circle back in and come back into the middle of the mat. And a lot of times the ref will be like, circle back in, circle back in. Doesn't mean you have to let them back in. You shoot them right out and you'll get that stalling call, especially as you guys get into high school and college. They're going to call stalling calls. Another thing I'll do if I'm wrestling somebody who continues to back up and I need to get my shots off and score, I'll stop chasing after them. So if I don't go into them, they won't back up. So the way it works is I'm this guy. This is my opponent. If I go into him, he backs up. So if I just stand there, he's not going to back up because he'll look weird just backing up when I'm not chasing him. And sometimes I'll circle. So when I circle, the distance between each of us won't separate if I'm circling. So I'll circle a lot. I'll back up myself. If I back up, they might come into me. So I'm trying to disrupt the pattern of movement. If I have somebody who's backing up a lot, sometimes I'll chase them down and look to shoot them out of bounds to get a stall call. If I'm having trouble with that, I'll start backing up myself or circling so that they don't continue to run away from me. And if you guys have any questions, hop on the free academy. Like I said, I'm going through and answering all of them. And I'll be on for the next 50 minutes or so answering any questions you guys have every Tuesday, all right? All right, we got another question about sweep singles. After I successfully penetrate and get a sweep single, how should I be gripping the leg? How do you grip the leg on a sweep single, you guys? The backhand is on top. That is a number one rule for grip on a single leg. So if you're shooting a sweep single, you guys, backhand goes on top. I like gable grip. You can grab your own wrist as well. But the main thing is your backhand, the one that's going in between the legs and swinging behind the person, needs to be on top, okay? The reason being is it's harder to break that grip when somebody sprawls. So if you guys like sweep singles, which everybody should be doing singles, backhands on top. All right, moving on to the next question. All right, pushing off your back foot. All right, that's a question we got about that. So I'm working on the double leg with my son, and I noticed that he drops his knee after taking his penetration step rather than pushing off his back foot. Yeah, very common issue. I don't know if you guys hit doubles or high crotches, but there's a shot called a knee over toe shot. You take your forward leg, you step forwards, you hit your knee, you step your trail leg up. This is the general shot you learn in wrestling. Penetration shot. Some people just call it a shot. When I do this shot, I do not want my trail leg, that knee, to hit the mat. You should only be hitting one knee. One knee should be touching the mat when you hit something like a double leg or a high crotch. I don't even want to drag my foot behind either. So when I'm shooting a double leg, my back foot, I don't even want it dragging across the mat because it almost slows the shot down. So I take a big step forwards, I hit my forward knee on the mat, and then my trail leg will just step up quickly to reduce the drag of that foot. So, but the funny thing is a lot of people, might be a basic thing for you guys, but you got to dial in that shot, because if you don't have a fast shot or you're hitting both knees, when they sprawl, you're going to have a tough time scoring. If you guys have any questions, like I said, hop on my free academy. I'm requesting memberships. So once I accept your request, you can go in and ask your questions, type your questions in. But I'm just going through different questions we got. This is more like a scheduling one. We start school tomorrow at 7. I get out of school at 2. I then have practice for 4 straight hours. That can't be true, dude. Anybody else have practice for 4 hours? I've never heard of that. I run my practices at my club for an hour and a half for my high school guys and college guys. That's what a lot of times we did in college too. 4-hour long practice, that is insane. And then he says he gets out and he goes to BJJ practice for another hour and a half. That cannot be true. I don't know. He's essentially asking a general question about, I feel overwhelmed with the amount of training I'm doing. What should I do? I don't know if any of you guys are in that boat. Most people, I would say, do not train enough. They're not really doing the 4 hours of practice, then jiu-jitsu, another hour and a half of jiu-jitsu practice. How do I go about, having a good training schedule? So this is my recommendation for training schedules if you guys haven't had yours set up. And I'll say the most extreme that I would recommend. The most extreme I would recommend would be 2 practices a day. That is on the extreme end, with 1 day off a week. So you take 1 day off a week, you're training 2 times a day. Now, this doesn't mean 2 wrestling practices. This doesn't mean 2 lifts or whatever. In general, you're going to find a good schedule for you. You'll mix in some weight training, you'll mix in some cardio, and you'll mix in some wrestling. The way I like to do it was I did 2 wrestling practices on Monday. I did a lift and a wrestling practice on Tuesday. I did 2 wrestling practices on Wednesday, a lift and a wrestling practice on Thursday, 2 wrestling on Friday, then a lift and a wrestling practice on Saturday, take Sunday off. That's if I don't have any tournaments, but a lot of you guys have dual meets tournaments, so that kind of breaks up the training a little bit. I focus a little more on the wrestling during the in-season. I do more lifting during the off-season because during the in-season, a lot of times you have the opportunity to do 2 practices because you have your high school practice or your middle school practice, and then you can go and wrestle at your club practice, so it's a little bit easier. But those are my general recommendations. Now, it also is going to depend on your guys' goal. Where do you want to be with wrestling? What's your goal? Are you a 6-year-old that just started out wrestling? I'm wrestling 3 times a week probably, right? Are you a high school wrestler who started late and has 1 year left to win a state title? Then you got to lock in and wrestle way more practices, right? So essentially just depends on your goals. Like I said, if you guys have any questions you want to get answered, join my free online academy. Link is pinned at the top. Yep, still there. I'll be on for another 45 minutes answering any questions you guys have. Once you join the academy, you guys can ask questions. Just going through, seeing what other questions we got. We got a question about lifting. So what type of lifting should I do for wrestling, for grappling to get great results, or strength training in general? I'll just tell you what I did. I'm not an expert on weightlifting by any means. My focus is for sure the wrestling part. I spend hours every single day wrestling for my entire life. So that's my main focus. But as far as lifting, I can explain what my college had me do. So I wrestled at Drexel University. Division I wrestling program. So we had a great lifting coach, right? And the way that the lifts went were like this. We went into this small back room and we would do a warm-up. Sometimes it would be like a core warm-up where you're doing like sit-ups, leg lifts, little circuit kind of like ab exercises. Sometimes it would be ladder drills. So you line up a ladder, get some quick feet in. sometimes a lot of times they'll have some dynamic stretching. So like dynamic stretching is just when you're stretching but you're moving. So like, like where you do like walking lunges or something like that. But once that warm-up's done, it's about 10 minutes or so, we go into the weightlifting room, the main room, right? We were in this back room doing our warm-ups. Then we go into the weightlifting room. We always started out with an Olympic lift. This is something that I don't recommend you if you're starting out lifting or you don't have someone to help you out. I don't recommend you do Olympic lifts. They're very there's a risk of injury, I think, a higher risk of injury because the movements are very complex. But that's what we did. We did snatches, or my bad, cleans, snatches. They weren't super high reps, so there'd be like 3 sets of 3, like 3 reps or 3 to 5 reps. Not a lot of reps. Very explosive. Wasn't max weight. Normally it was 3 sets, and sometimes it would be paired with something else. But in general, it was just say it would be like 3 sets of 3 reps each. Hang cleans, right? Once we finish that Olympic lift, we then move on to our main like body weight lift. If it was an upper body day, we would do bench or incline bench. If it was a lower body day, we would do deadlifts or squats or front squats. For some reason, our coach would always have us do front squats. I don't know the science behind whether you do front squats or back squats, but for some reason, our program loved to make us do front squats, which is where you hold the squat bar on your shoulders here. So that was interesting. And then they would pair it up with like pull-ups a lot of times. So you do like normally three sets still, but the reps would range. So sometimes it would be heavier weight, lower reps. Sometimes it would be like 8 to 12 reps with, a middle amount of weight. We never do a lot of reps though. We're not doing like 20 reps or 15 reps. I think like 8 was more that max, maybe 10. But after we would do 1 set of squats, we'd go and do pull-ups. They would always make us do weighted pull-ups, which I think is really something you guys should do. If you only do body weight stuff, I would recommend doing weighted because you can progress much quicker by just adding weight to your pull-ups instead of just being like, last year I did 10 pull-ups, now I do 20. You're going to be more like last year I did 10 pull-ups, this year I do 10 pull-ups with 45-pound plate wrapped around my neck, right? So I do recommend weighted pull-ups. So that's that portion. Once we finish the 3 sets of that, we go to auxiliary lifts. What I mean by that is sometimes it'd be arm curls, presses, right? Like dumbbell presses. It would be lunges, weighted lunges, just a very wide variety, some grip workout stuff. And there would be like 4 or 5 exercises, and we would do more reps normally, like 15 reps, lat pull downs, a lot of different stuff. And then once that was done, we'd finish off with a cardio. They would make us do like interval training. So like 30 seconds on, 5 seconds rest for sprinting on a bike. Now it's kind of a little bit of a long-winded way to go about it, but I just wanted to explain that is the weightlifting program we did in college. If you just caught on to the end of that, you guys can go and watch this video. It will be posted once it's done, but hopefully that helped. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, hop on the free online academy. Link is pinned up here. You can ask any questions you guys have. I'm just going to go through and answer anything else we got. We got Joshua asking, how do you deal with confidence with shots? During stressful matches, like a tough dual meet or a blood round in a tournament, I'm not super confident in my shots, and I'm not aggressive at all when I do shoot. Okay. How do you get more confident with your guys' shots? If I want to get more confident in my shots, I don't know if any of you guys are not confident in your shots. You feel like every time you shoot, they're going to score. The first thing I would do is start hitting my moves against practice partners that I'm much better than. So if you guys have a bunch of practice partners where you are significantly better than, wrestle them live, hit your shots again and again and again. And be very offensive. Forget about top for now. Take him down, cut him, get to his legs, and work on your shots. Confidence, you gain confidence by, You gain confidence in your shots by getting takedowns. So every takedown you get, think of your confidence as like a meter, 0% confident, then it goes all the way up to 100% confidence, okay? Your meter will go from 0 all the way up to 100, and it will start ticking. Every takedown you get gives you more confidence. It gets your meter up to 100% confident in your shots. So grab a practice partner you're much better than, wrestle them live, hit shots on them, gain some confidence, then pick a partner a little bit harder. That's something I recommend doing. And then anytime you're in an actual tournament, because it's so much different practice versus tournament. So when you guys go in and actually wrestle in a tournament, I would recommend, if you ever are wrestling somebody that you took down easily, cut them, take them down again. That's your opportunity to get practice reps in. So if you don't have confidence in your shot, start off in practice, grab a partner you're way better than, start taking them down, then go to a tournament. If you're ever in a situation where you took him down super easy, this kid is so bad, you're so much better than him, do not pin him quick. Let him go, take him down again, start building confidence. Then the third thing I would do to build confidence in my shots is I would work on shot recovery, so that anytime you shot, no matter if it was a bad shot or a great shot, you know you're not going to get spun around on. So getting out of a front headlock, I have a video on shot recovery, and all my videos are organized in my free online academy. If you guys hop on there, much easier to find all my videos in an organized place. But get better at shot recovery. All right. Hopefully that helped, Joshua, with gaining your confidence. Like I said, if you guys have any specific questions, hop on my free academy. I'll be answering them there. Askren is definitely a great person to study for scrambling. Oh, definitely. And yeah, if somebody gets a takedown on me, I'm sure they'll get fired up. That was actually something. If you start beating people in their practice room that are good, that's how you build. I think the best way to build confidence is by actually getting results. It's weird because you're like, well, how do I get the results in the first place? I'm not confident enough. But I got confident that I could be an All-American when I beat 4 All-Americans. I was like, okay, no, I can actually do it. So confidence almost follows after you start getting progress. So it's a little bit hard to be fake confident. There are some certain confidence, if a coach is telling you you're really good, that will give you confidence. But a lot of times the best way to gain confidence is by starting to get some slight results. And that's what I like to hear, Josh. Yeah, literally just grab a practice partner that you're way better than and take them down 1,000 times to get some confidence, okay? Jonathan's asking, what is the best approach to handling a wrestler that drops to a grounded position, protecting his legs from being attacked? So this is actually I don't think it's too hard to deal with, but a lot of times, especially in youth wrestling, I don't know if you guys ever watch those really, really good 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. They go on one knee and they're just knee sliding around the mat and trying to dive at the person's legs. And they have a lot of success with it. But think about this. You guys go watch Olympic wrestling. I don't even know if they're allowed to do it in the Olympics. I think that's why. But go watch Division I NCAA wrestling and see how often people wrestle from a knee. Nobody really wrestles from one knee at a high level. They might sprawl to their knees, then come back up, but they're not going down to that grounded position where they're on one knee. The reason being is because it's very easy to front headlock somebody. So if I'm personally ever wrestling somebody who's wrestling from one knee, in almost like a football stance, but on a knee with their hand posted, I'm looking to get to a front headlock position. I'm going to expect them to shoot as I go front headlock. I made a video on front headlocks, a couple of them. Again, if you hop on the online academy, you'll be able to see them in a more organized place. But there's a technique called a football grip where you can pull them into a front headlock like this. That is what I recommend doing, kind of clubbing and pulling them into that front headlock. And yeah, there definitely are a couple people that wrestle from the knee, but not very often. And it's not like the whole match. You don't chill on one knee the whole match. You might fall to your knee, but some of these kids, they're hanging out on their knees the whole time. Pull a front headlock. collar tie and pull them into, I don't know if I'm too close to the camera, but pull them in like this, boom, and snatch their head, switch to a different front headlock grip and start pulling them down and scoring. So that's my recommendation for people that wrestle on one knee. Jonathan, if you're that's not what you're really talking about, I can clarify. But yeah, and if you guys have any questions, again, hop on that free online academy. I'm answering all the questions inside there. Just searching for anything else. How to deal with those wrist grabs. Let me just see what that even means. All right, so I don't know if you guys have ever wrestled tall opponents, right? You go in, you start wrestling people that are super tall and lengthy, and they keep grabbing your wrists. So you can't get to your tie-ups. They keep grabbing your wrists, and you're having trouble getting your tie-ups. There's a technique to clear wrists. I put it in my hand fighting video that you guys can watch if you're having trouble with hand fighting. But how do I get a wrist off? If we're in neutral and they grab my wrist, I'm going to use my opposite hand to like pop their hand off of me. And there's some more little details to it, but in general, I'm going to pop the hand off. Once I clear the wrist off my wrist, I'm going to go to almost a Russian tie or a baseball grip. I'm going to do two hands to that hand I just cleared. So he has this wrist. I clear it off. Now I have his wrist. Other hand grabs the really up in the armpit, and then I work to my tie up. Do not clear people's tie ups and create space. Because when you go to make contact again, they're going to get your wrist again. You're going to clear it off. You're going to back up. When you make contact again, they're going to get your wrist again. So you want to clear their tie-up off, which is if they're grabbing your wrist, use their hand, pop it off, and then start closing the gap and getting to your tie-up if you want to stop that from happening again, okay? And right now, I'm just answering all the questions inside my free online academy. Link is over here, pinned at the top. If you're not part of the free online academy, I don't know what you're doing. Best academy in the country. We got over 6,500 people on there getting better at wrestling, getting their questions answered. So if you guys have any questions, just drop them right in the academy. All right. Just going to go through, see if there's anything else. All right. Ismail's asking how to not telegraph his shots. So I don't know if you guys know what that means, but telegraph just means that they feel the shot coming, right? And they stop you. How do I set it's really just how do I set my shots up better? Couple things. First thing, you guys need to know what type you like. Do you like collar? Do you like underhook? Do you like inside tie? And make sure you get to a tie-up where your opponent doesn't have any defensive ties. So say if you like an inside tie and a collar tie. If your opponent has thumb blocks on you, so they have their arms, their hands like this, and they're pushing on your shoulder, they will feel the shot coming. Doesn't matter how fast you shoot it, they will just feel the pressure on this part of their hand, and they will stop your shot. So you could be telegraphing your shot because you're not hand fighting hard enough. You don't have those thumb blocks cleared off. You didn't chop them off enough, right? And hand fight to your tie-up. So that's one thing to look at if you're telegraphing your shots. Hand fight more, you guys. Hand fight to your tie-ups, and then look to get to the your attacks. Second thing, it could be because they're not pushing into you. So in order to set up a shot, say you have the perfect tie-up. You got your inside tie. They don't have a thumb block on you. If they're backing up and you shoot, your shot's going to seem very slow. If they're pushing into you and you shoot, you're going to seem like a much quicker shot because they're coming into you as you shoot. So they're meeting you halfway. So what I recommend you do is as you drill, work on getting them to push back into you. And once they push back into you, dropping into your shots so they almost fall over top of you. Another great setup for your shots is pulling them. So I can push, they push back, I drop and shoot. I can pull them when they stand up, I let go of their head and shoot because they'll pop their head up and expose their legs. So if you guys have any issues with telegraphing your shots, they seem like they're too slow, two things. Hand fight more so they don't have any thumb blocks. And secondly, set your shot up better with pushing and pulling to be able to shoot at the right moment. All right. If you guys have any questions, hop in that academy. I'm jumping through, answering any questions you guys might have. Just accepted 2 of the requests, so you guys should be able to ask your questions. I'm just going to go through and make sure I got everybody. Let me see. All right. All right. Alex is, this is kind of a similar question, but a little bit different of a spinoff. Alex is asking, he's also having a hard time getting into his shots. But he specifically does his shots from a collar tie. And I want to tell you guys something that most wrestlers do wrong. Their favorite type is a collar tie. Jiu-jitsu guys do this too. Your favorite type, everybody says, hey, my favorite type's a collar tie. Like that's almost 50% of the time when I ask somebody what their favorite tie-up is, they go, I like a collar tie. The problem is they collar tie with their lead hand, so the hand that normally shoots like a high crotch, they collar tie with their right hand if they're a righty, and the person grabs their elbow. So what happens is they have a collar tie. Try to move this back a little bit so you guys can see. They have a collar tie, and their opponent has this elbow. So when they go to drop to a shot, their arm gets stuck. So they can't drop their arm underneath, and they can't get to the legs. So if you like a collar tie as a tie-up, which I did too, you need to make sure if you're going to drop that hand to, say, hit a high crotch, that you thumb block and you clear their hand off your elbow. Or pick shots where you don't have to. Like you can go collar tie ankle pick and not worry about clearing that elbow tie. There's not many other shots that you can do snap down too. But if you guys like collar tie, really think about that. Like, are they grabbing my elbow? Or am I collar tying with my lead hand so it's hard for me to shoot? My little feedback on that. All right. Just going through my free online academy and answering any questions that are in here. If you guys are interested in joining the free online academy, link is right there. All right. All right. I got a question. What is the best way to score from opponent sit out? In one of the matches, I wrestled my opponent, kept sitting out and flipping over to quad pod. How do you beat a quad or a sit out position? Normally, people who like arm chops, anybody in the chat or that's watching like arm chops. They like breaking somebody flat with an arm chop. Normally, those wrestlers have more difficulty when somebody sits out. Because when somebody goes for a sit out, you can't be in an arm chop. You guys have to switch to a spiral ride. I don't know if you know what a spiral ride is, but do a quick research on that. Or just search it inside my free online academy. There'll be a video on it there. But when somebody goes to a sit out, you have to wrestle spiral ride position. Hook the shoulder, grab his thigh, and then start pulling him down. Super easy to follow somebody when they go to sit out if you're in a spiral. Also pressure into them. So when they go sit out, you want them like curled over. So push on their upper back and try to get their body like bent over so their head's almost touching their knees and be in that spiral position. And I don't see really having any trouble stopping that sit out. You can also learn stuff like suck backs where you grab their chin and you pull them back and try to pin them. But if you're just trying to get back on top, I would recommend going to that spiral ride position. All right, right now I'm looking through my online academy, just answering any questions that are put in here. See what we got. At my first tournament in 20 ways, what are things I should focus on? I guess I can answer this one. Anybody's first tournament, I feel like there's probably not many people that have their first tournament. We're pretty much in the middle of our wrestling season, so I wouldn't see many people that are in a first tournament. But one of my online academy members is asking some advice for his first tournament. If it's my first tournament, what would I do? If I don't have too much wrestling experience, man, I would work on like one move. I would probably if I was wrestling and I started late and I had to get good really quick, I'd probably hit like a blast double. I think that move is so simple. There's not much scrambling that will happen, so you don't need to know that many finishes. And if you're strong, you can blast through it. But besides the point, find a move that you guys really like, find a takedown, find a turn, get really good at resisting things on bottom. And then go and hit those moves. Like just keep it simple. If it's your first tournament, if you haven't been wrestling for very long, keep your wrestling simple. All right, you get overwhelmed trying to learn every move out there. Another thing that I've noticed is it's easier to get good at defense than offense. So if you want to have some success quickly, spend a little bit more time on your sprawls, on your defense, and you'll find you'll have a little bit more success. So that's my quick recommendation for people that are new. And again, like if you guys have any questions, I see some questions in the chat, just hop on my free online academy and ask your questions there. That's where I'm answering any of the questions. And I'm accepting everybody in, so you'll be good. All right, let me see. Got another 25 minutes, you guys answering all your questions. So you got plenty of time to hop on the academy and ask anything you guys want. All right. Another one on shooting faster, kind of similar. I'll skip that one. Front headlock defense. We can talk about front headlock defense. So if you guys are having trouble getting out of a front headlock or recovering from a front headlock, there's a couple techniques you can do. This is also my shot recovery video. You guys can find on YouTube or hop on the online academy. The best way is control that tricep. So pretty much the general defense, the main defense, like there might be a couple little tricks, but the way to get control of front headlock from underneath is control the tricep of the arm that has your chin. So normally when somebody has a front headlock, they have one hand grabbing your chin or they have their hands locked together. Whatever hand is wrapped around your neck, grab up in that armpit, pull it really tight, and make sure to keep your tricep tight to your ribs. So you're holding that tricep here. Then what you're going to look to do is circle into that arm and pull your head out. Another key thing to getting out of a front headlock or just defending front headlocks is be very big. Don't be super crunched up in a ball because it's really easy to get cradled from that front headlock position. So if you shoot in on a shot, they get you in a front headlock, immediately post one hand and reach up and grab as high up into their armpit as possible and put your elbow to your side. Then start working up to your feet and clearing your head out. So that is my recommendations for escaping that position, okay? All right. Answering all the questions inside my free online academy. Make sure you guys hop on. I know most of you guys are already on it, so that's the questions where I'm answering right now. So kind of going through that. I'm trying to prepare myself. I was wondering if you can any quick tips or direct tilts. Tilts. All right, somebody's asking about tilts. So I'll give you some thoughts on tilts. That works for you guys. So I think tilts is one of the best turns in wrestling. I think it's tilts, cradles, and leg riding are the three most dominant turns from leg riding. So I recommend, getting good at those ones. As far as the tilts, I think the roll through tilt is such a great move where you roll in between the legs. I think armbar tilt is really, really nice. Armbar tilt is so hard to get out of. If you guys like arm bars or you like tilts, I really recommend you guys getting down your arm bar tilt and getting it really good because it's very effective. Once you get the arm bar and the wrist, so hard to get out of that position. So that's one thought on tilts. There's another thing on the roll through tilt. I kind of changed my opinion on it. So when people do a roll through tilt, sorry if this is kind of like just showing my underneath my chin, but people do a roll through tilt. They grab the wrist, right? They pull it across the stomach, and the other hand grabs the elbow. So you kind of have them like this, and it's like a seatbelt, like you're buckling a seatbelt into your opponent's. Your opponent's arm is the seatbelt, and you're buckling it into their waist. Hopefully that makes sense. You're grabbing their arm, and you're buckling their arm into their own waist. What people tend to do with their left hand is they're taught to push like this on the back of your opponent's tricep to push that arm super tight. But I watched a video on Spencer Lee explaining how he does his tilts, and I've been using that, and I think it's a better way to go about it. Instead of pushing, he wraps all his fingers over top of the elbow joint and hugs it. So instead of pushing the arm across, he wraps and hugs it super tight. And it really like squeezes the person in. Very hard for them to bridge out of that roll through tilt. I have a video on it inside my free online academy on tilts. It kind of goes over what I'm talking about. So you can click the link up there and join. I'll make sure to approve you. But yeah, you guys can ask questions as well inside that academy. That is the questions I am answering. We got 20 more minutes left, so make sure you guys hop on. Got a question from Chris. I'm having a tough time getting my son to understand staying low and to shoot for a takedown. I tried the finger tapping the mat and all that. No positive effect. His peers are all similar, but I don't want him heading into his first match with bad habits. Okay. So Chris has a son, just started wrestling, and he can't get into a low stance. He's standing up too high. Get in your stance, right? I always yelling that to my younger youth wrestlers. I think that touching the mat is probably the best kind of way to go about it. Check your stance. That's by touching the mat, touching the mat, making sure you're low enough. Like in general, the way I teach good stance is you need to be at a maximum or at a minimum, you need to be able to touch the mat. Like that's the highest you should be. So if you're in a stance and you drop your arm down and you can't touch the mat, you need to get your stance a little lower, right? I also do that when they drill. It depends on how young the kid is. It might be hard for them to understand, but there's 6 steps to a shot. I made a video on this, 6 steps to a takedown. Very, very effective way to drill to make sure you're drilling perfectly. And normally before I make contact with my backhand, I touch the mat every rep. So what I recommend, Chris, is when your son is drilling takedowns with his practice partner, every single time he practices a shot, I want him to touch the mat, then tie up, then shoot. Or if he's just going to not tie up and just shoot from the open, I want him to touch the mat beforehand. It's just a practice and level change. Touch the mat, tie up, shoot, or touch the mat and then shoot. Just to work on level changing and making sure his stance is low enough. I know you said the touch the mat thing hasn't been too effective, but that's what I use. And use it in the drilling, use it in the live and practice. And but you got to use it in the drilling. Like you can't just do it in live. So I don't know if you're doing that, Chris, but like if you add that into the practice portion for your son, where he's touching the mat, then tying up, then shooting, that might be able to help break that habit. Make him do 1,000 push-ups if he gets out of his stance. I don't know. And you can do stance and motion too. Like maybe at home, if you have a little mat space or after practice, get him in the stance, sprawl, shoot, check your stance. Check your stance just means touch the mat, right? Check your stance. Are you too tall? That's my recommendation, Chris. Hopefully that helped a little bit for you. Just going through answering any questions inside my free academy. If you're not a part of it, join there, all right? Let's go through, answer any other questions we might have. 15 more minutes. Questions? And if you guys are wondering about freestyle and Greco-Roman, I don't know if any of you guys that are watching train freestyle, train Greco. As far as in the United States, it's kind of a seasonal sport for the high school and middle school. So the way I train it is we have the state championships in beginning of March, end of February. We have our national championships at the end of March, and then we'll do freestyle. I don't really do too much Greco. Because at the end of the day, my main focus is actually getting the kids better at folk style. So I kind of like that freestyle. I can show them throws anyways. It doesn't really matter. You can show them throws for freestyle, but freestyle is definitely way closer to folk style than Greco-Roman. Greco-Roman, you can't even do foot sweeps. You can't touch the legs. I think it's a little more boring. You know, it's limiting my wrestlers. But besides the point, once states is over, I'll make some content on freestyle and Greco-Roman turns for you guys, okay? But in general, if you're just starting out with freestyle, just get good at a gut wrench, get good at a leg lace, and you'll go pretty far with wrestling. You know, if you're hitting like a high crotch or a double, I tend to go right to a gut wrench. If you're hitting a single, you'll end up going right to a leg lace. Low single, you go to leg lace. So based on what takedown you're doing, you kind of like will transition to different, either a gut wrench or a leg lace. There's plenty of other turns you can throw legs in, but those two are going to be your bread and butter. And then as far as bottom wrestling and freestyle, you just got to work on resisting the different directions and trying to just stall out for those 10, 15 seconds before the ref lets you up. So that is my thoughts on freestyle Greco. See if there's any other questions we got. If you just joined, I'm checking my free online academy right now for any questions. Link is right there. You guys can join that free online academy and get all your questions answered. All right. All right, we got Steven. I'm a very fast with long limbs at 120. Was looking for some moves I could use right now. All right. Tall person, that's fast. And this is something I think about making a video on at some point, where I talk about how, based on your size, maybe what moves I would pick. With reach, you have certain advantages, like moves like ankle picks, cradles, leg riding become a little easier to do. Normally, you're not as strong, so you know some techniques become more difficult to do. Like I think a tripod stand up sometimes is harder if you're not strong, because you can get like arm chopped over top. But if I was a tall wrestler and starting out, I would do ankle pick, low single. I would do I don't think of any other type of stuff. And the other thing too is, if you're tall and you're really skinny and not very strong, the reality is there's really nobody at a very high level that's not decently strong. So you need to start gaining weight, really. Like if you're tall and very, very skinny, some short jack dude's gonna slam you on your back and just blow right through you. So there's a balance to it. Like think of David Taylor. Like that's kind of more of that limit of tall people that you see that are really, get really high level wrestlers. You don't see a lot of like super frail, skinny people, some 125 pounders, but and you also, I would say this, you don't actually see a lot of super short wrestlers too that are super successful. I think a medium-sized wrestler is kind of the more ideal, maybe not, but there's disadvantages, I think, to short wrestlers without having that reach. If you're very, very short, it's like so hard to get to a leg. And then like if somebody gets you in a front headlock and they're way taller than you, they can just literally reach around and grab your ankle super easily. I was like that average height. There are some advantages, but like I think my point being is, if you're very, very tall, very skinny, kind of like weight, getting out muscled, gain some muscle, go up a couple weight classes, you still have your length, but you have at least some strength to be able to deal with your opponents. All right. 10 more minutes, you guys. If you have any questions, make sure to hop on my free online academy. Do this every single week. So every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you guys can hop on, ask your questions. But make sure you join the online academy so you can ask your questions, okay? Adam's asking, similar to the last question, my 7-year-old is aggressive with his siblings wrestling at practice, even or matches. He's much less aggressive and more of a don't get pinned mindset, much slower, etc. Okay, yeah. So all right. So Adam's asking, sorry, I was just reading the comment, the chat. So Adam's asking, he has a 7-year-old that's not very aggressive. He's aggressive against his siblings. Of course, he's aggressive against his siblings because he's got a little beef with his siblings, just like I did, right? Like not necessarily fighting, but like it's your sibling. It's you're already have that built-in competition with your siblings. So I feel like it's hard not to have that competition, right? Right? Who's the better Gerald brother, right? Some things I recommend for aggression could be a confidence thing. I mean, I don't know how good your son is, Adam, but it could be a confidence thing, meaning, man, when he is aggressive, when he does shoot, everyone just scores on him. If this is the case, so if your son is like going into practice and like every time he shoots, somebody sprawls and spins around him, I recommend trying to pair him up with somebody he's better than. So if there's any other kid at practice room that you think he can beat and have confidence in, I want you to tell him before practice, and it could be just be during the live portion. It doesn't have to be during the drilling. But during live, tell him, hey, I'm pairing you up with John over there. He's a little smaller, or you can tell him if you're not coaching him, you can just tell him, hey, I want you to wrestle John today and try to shoot on him as much as possible. So even if he's younger or smaller, it doesn't matter. He's not gonna. Don't tell your son to hurt somebody smaller than them or anything like that. But start building confidence in his offense. People aren't going to be aggressive if every time they go to shoot, they're going to get scored on. So my suggestion, Adam, is if there's any partners in there that when he goes live, he feels like he can take down, I would take that kid down like 15 times in a live go. Forget about pinning him. Just tell him, hey, I want to see if you can get 10 takedowns on this partner during live. Take him down, stand back up on your feet, do it again, and just start getting used to having that success. It's hard to be aggressive when you don't have success. They kind of go hand in hand. And just letting him know, like, I think there's a scale to aggression, but letting him know, like, when he is aggressive, great job. That's exactly the way I want to see. Even if he's a little more aggressive, like, again, there's scale to technique. Oh, that's like really bad technique, really good. That's medium technique. That's really bad aggression. That's really great aggression. That's a little bit in between. So as he becomes more aggressive, give him that positive feedback. Hey, that was really aggressive. I loved seeing that. I saw you wrestling with your brothers. It's exactly how you should be wrestling. Like, let him know every time you wrestle with siblings, that was awesome, dude. That's exactly how you should be. You didn't give up there. You were fighting your hardest. I want to see that with everybody you wrestle, but not like in a negative way. Ideally, don't be like, oh, why can't you do that with the other kids? Because he won't be able to understand why he can't. He can't because he cares more about beating his brothers. So it's already naturally a competitive thing, or his sisters, or whatever the siblings are. But just be positive. That was great. Like when you wrestled your sibling, your brother, that was exactly the way I want to see it. Let's see you do that today in practice, and then just really and pair him up with those kids that he can beat. Get him some confidence. Then give him positive feedback through that. Then pair him up with people that are harder and harder and harder. Always commend his effort. Don't worry about the wins and losses, because you want the aggression to be better, the effort to be higher. Yeah, that's kind of that. Those are some of the ways that I would go about it. And they'll get naturally more aggressive as they get older, as they get more competitive. So don't worry too much. This isn't like something like, oh man, like if I don't fix my 7-year-old by the time he's 8, he's going to be such a bad wrestler. He'll never win. It's like, as people train harder, they care more as they're doing it longer. Like if you've been wrestling for 2 months, you don't really care if you lose a match, compared to if you've been wrestling for 20 years. I'm just giving like a very big example, but and you wrestled your whole life to win that Olympic title, you're going to fight tooth and nail to win that thing. So as he trains harder, as he trains more, his aggression will naturally go up, and you're going to just continue to remind him that when he does do well, that's exactly what I like to see. That was great aggression. And sometimes when they don't know what aggression means, and normally like when you tell them what aggression means, tell them what you want them to do. When I say aggression, I mean shoot more. That's what I normally say. Attack the legs, grab the legs, shoot. Don't care if he got spun around on. Attack, shoot. When you're on top, try to score. So to me, aggression is trying to score, always working to score. So make sure you're not just saying, be aggressive necessarily, because they might not understand that. That's why I'm telling him to pair up with somebody that he's better than and just score points, attack the legs, score as much as possible. Glad it's helping, Adam. I got 3-4 more minutes left, you guys. Even if you don't have any questions, hop on that free online academy. We got 50 free instructionals on there. Nice organized plays. Get your questions answered. Can't ask for anything better, okay? All right, Garrett's asking, can you remind me about hand fighting out of double underhooks, or is there a good attack out of that position? Can you remember hand fighting out of double underhooks? Double underhooks are pretty difficult. If somebody gets double underhooks on me, I lock my hands together in an overhook position. I push my lock into their stomach, and I try to get my head into their chest. So they're going to try to jack me up and stand me up tall to get a bear hug position to lock their hands together. So I'm going to take my hands, lock them together in an overhook position, push on their stomach, get my head on their chest, and keep their hips away. And the lock makes it hard for them to be able to throw by on the underhook too. So Garrett, that's my recommendation. You got caught in double underhooks, lock your hands together, push on their stomach, get your head into the middle part of their chest, kind of upper part, keep their hips away. When you can slip one arm free. Sometimes you won't be able to. You got to be a little careful there. Sometimes you're able to crank down enough to kind of push them free. But that's kind of how I'm going to play out that double underhook defense. Lock the hands, push on the stomach, head down, keep their hips back. Push on those hips, get those hips away. I appreciate the recommendation in the chat too. Let me see if I got James asking a question. We'll see if we can get through a couple more. How do you help a kid who has a hard time pulling the trigger and following through? We've got a few kids who aren't fully accessing their skills. They're freezing in matches when things get hard. James, my main recommendation with that is similar to some of the stuff I said earlier. Your kids will have the opportunity in general to wrestle somebody they can beat. When they have that opportunity, say your kid's losing almost all these matches. He's losing most of his matches, but he has the opportunity. He's got a couple kids where he can beat, and he's a little good enough better than him. I do recommend this takedown and cut style of live. Scoring, not pinning right or just turning or anything. Score a lot of points. So, James, when your athletes have the opportunity to wrestle somebody that they're much better than, and they're on the mat, it's in live too. Like, practice is way different than live. Practice is way different than matches. Matches, people freeze up. When he has an opportunity, you're not being a jerk. It's helping develop him as a wrestler. It's takedown, get another takedown. Let's score some points, you guys. Get a turn. I know you can pin him in 20 seconds, but we got to gain some confidence, man. You're freezing up too much. Go attack. Get as many points as you can. You can teach them that in the practice room though, because they might not understand like letting them go. There's a proper way to cut somebody, but you could just say, stand up and let them go. Let's get another takedown. Just gain some confidence. This is going to make your wrestlers gain that confidence very, very quickly and start believing that they can do a lot of takedowns. They can do this. And then reality is, they'll build the most confidence. They do that against a really great wrestler. And I'll finish off with this, you guys. And again, we'll do this next week too, so you guys can hop in the academy and ask questions for next week. But if you guys go watch Bo Bassett, or I mean, to me, he's a perfect example right now, and I think a lot of people know him. He's taking kids that are very high level wrestlers. Say he's the number 1 in the country. He's wrestling the number 4 in the country. He's going out into a match. The score's tight. First 2 minutes, first period, maybe there's only 1 takedown. It's a super close match. Maybe it's 0-0 first period. But Bo keeps on the attack, keeps hand fighting, keeps his aggression up. Second period, he gets a takedown. He immediately will cut the kid and try to go again. Because he has so much confidence in himself that he knows, I'm going to break this kid. I'm trying to score any moment I can. And he ends up like teching the number 4 kid in the country when the first period it was 0-0. And that confidence is built from doing that no matter who he wrestles. Obviously, you wrestle somebody who like, okay, you're a national champ. This kid's a first day wrestling. You don't have to be it's not being a jerk about it, but it's about developing the type of wrestler you're going to be. You're always going to give your full effort. You're always going to score as many points as you can. And that's how somebody that maybe in rankings could be so close, but he can end up ending those matches with a major, with a technical fall, because he is able to continue that pace, have confidence that if I took him down once, I can take him down 2 times, I can take him down 5 times, I can get the tech and win. So I highly recommend that philosophy of scoring, trying to score at any moment, not being worried about losing your matches. If you can't turn them, cut them. That's what I tell my wrestlers. You can't turn your wrestler in practice. Like, you can't turn them, cut them, get another takedown. We're trying to score here. We're not stalling. We're not hanging out on top. We're here to become better wrestlers, make mistakes. So that is all of my recommendations, James. I'm sure I could get into more details later, but that's all I got for today, you guys. Again, join my free online academy. Link right there. You guys can get your questions answered for next week. And I mean, it's only for if you're serious about wrestling. If you don't care about wrestling, but I'm guessing if you're watching this in the middle of a day on a Tuesday, you care about wrestling. So hop on that free online academy. Link is posted at the top of the chat. And enjoy the rest of your guys' week. See you guys next Tuesday.